all this time we never knew that it'd be the technicians, not the musicians, that we really need. uh, all this year we've been putting up with their crap and all this.
Who thought? Who knew? Who knew that that you could have made it through a whole season of worship without everything that you've been carrying and stressing about down through the years? It's amazing. It's amazing. And here you become a referee, and then the cleanup on aisle 5 person with all of the other stuff that's been added into our calling. So this is an interesting time. I'm grateful for it. I really am. It's teaching me some things. Really is.
How have you been doing in light of everything? How have you been processing everything, just on a personal basis?
I'm doing good. I'm getting some rest.
Come down a little bit. Bring the monitor up. Just come down just a little bit. Okay. Yeah, perfect.
So I'm getting some rest. I'm revisiting some sermons that I preached some time ago, and I'm at home. That's rare. That's rare. I'm at home, so I'm up late watching TV. I saw last night, I watched Shaft. Man, that was good, boy. I was waiting for some Christian principles to come through that, but
not nothing with Shaft.
Yeah. So when you know, through this, we've had several people who've been ill. They're coming back this way. A couple of people who passed away, and having 10 people or less at the service, that's new. In our tradition, you know, if it's a person who's been involved in ministry down through the years, then people would want to be there for the service, but they just can't. So I think we're finding new ways how to do that. In fact,
what are the new ways that you've been using?
Finding new ways to do funeral services. The 10 people or less. The funeral homes are transporting the body from the funeral home to the church. Families, I have discovered in our area, are just opting to stay at the funeral home, and then you don't go. If you go to the cemetery, you can't get out the car to have your final rites given to your loved ones. So all of that's new. So what I have done the last 2 weeks is to double up on my calls to families who have lost loved ones, to try to make my presence known in that way. Yeah, but it is calling us to ministry, or to do ministry in some new and creative ways, which is not bad. Not bad.
When was the first time you heard the word coronavirus as relation to the COVID-19, this novel aspect of it? When did you realize it was serious, and then when did you make the decision as far as ministry and restructuring things?
I may have, George, heard it maybe back in January in passing, didn't think much of it. And maybe in March, when that thing got serious, I knew after, I don't know what Sunday that was, first, second Sunday, March, whatever that was, I knew that I would not be in the building with the parishioners, and to have that responsibility of them getting sick on me.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, because it would have been irresponsible.
Right.
The second thing is that I really love the people that I serve, and it was just to all of our advantage if we started to adhere to what was being passed down, not necessarily from the federal government, but by our state and local leaders were asking us to do some social spacing. In fact, the governor here was probably the last to say stay at home, but other leaders had taken the initiative to do that, and so I didn't have a problem doing that at all. Did I have some concerns about how ends would meet? Of course, but even that is a part of the overall faith journey during this season. We always have a tendency when that sun is shining to talk about trust God, et cetera, et cetera. And the moment comes where we really have to do it. And so you see what you made of.
Yeah.
And you know, interesting. And I don't want to just take over everything, but
No, it's your time.
for some of our colleagues, change came. It was always resisted,
Yeah.
and I mean, change is inevitable, but for people who came along in ministry with me, some before me, change was one of the things that just never resonated.
Mm-hmm.
We would ask people to change, but it was hard for us to do it. And really, your level of maturity has you asking questions like, how can that be? So doing this season for ministries who found it hard to change, I would really like to have a conversation with some of those pastor leaders to see what it's like in this season for them. You know, for instance, we started streaming because I had colleagues that were streaming, and they were, you know, in fact, I remember when we first started doing it, I saw my attendance fall off because people were watching the live stream, and so I was really battling whether that was necessary. And then you come to this period of COVID-19 where everybody now, you're either going Facebook live or you're going to stream, but you're not going to be in the building legally with either somebody's health. And so I look at all of that as a my being around progressive, intelligent, powerful guys that would move me to a place where even at the time I didn't see streaming as being a viable alternative, and now it is the alternative. Right. And so guys who never moved in that direction, you just wonder how they situated during this period to give leadership during this time. And I don't think we're going to be out of this in the next month or so. When you consider that that the president is saying by May 1st, I think that's this is just me personally. I think that looked like a money grab. Mother's Day is coming. They want
Right.
restaurants full, that kind of thing. But I don't see how that's going to be possible. There is no vaccine for it. We've not had enough testing. And so, and then for people of color who already are underserved doing this, and we have underlying preconditions, it really makes no sense as a leader to buy
Right.
in somebody else's timetable about when you're going to come back. You're just inviting disaster. So the brothers who hadn't moved in this direction prior to now, I'm really, really praying that they would reach out and try to be in conversation with people who have, so
Mm-hmm.
that they can survive this time. Now, if they don't, maybe it's a continuation of the masquerading that they were doing in ministry all along. This is a time where you cannot wear your mask and it makes sense.
Right.
Everybody has been unmasked during this crisis, and that's another reason why I think it's a good time.
How were you advising? Yeah, how were you advising guys or girls, ladies that were calling you and was weighing this and felt like, hey, this may be a scheme, this is an attack on the church? Did you get any calls like that? And if you did, how would you advise it?
Well, no, I didn't get any calls like that, and I there were one or two instances where the leadership had to be modeled rather than to be verbalized. And so if somebody had asked, then I would have probably said that it starts with the leadership, and
Mm-hmm.
and then who is handling the narrative. And if the narrative was going to come from me, George, it would have simply been safety first for you and your people.
Wow.
And bottom line, and heck, you really don't know who can lead until there's a crisis.
Right. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And also, when you're talking about that, can you talk about what you've been doing pastorally to kind of reshape church or adjusting to the reality that we're now facing?
Yeah. So if you're anything like me, and both of us have been around in huddles of brothers and sisters where at that moment we all look the same, act the same, et cetera. But you really don't know what each of us are made of until the crisis comes. And that point where you called upon to lead in ways that everybody cannot do. It's amazing that a year ago at IC3, Dr. West, the banner of our conference last year, was leading in uncharted territories. It was a theme then, but now it's a reality, and I'm hoping everybody can. I'm not so sure that it happens like that, because it comes down to your tool set.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have standard equipment, then it's gonna be hard to navigate in situations such as this. So you have to be, I think, honest with yourself, knowing that if you don't have the tools to carry you through, honest enough to reach out and ask somebody for some help.
Wow.
That's a way for me, I think, to be accountable as a leader. What I've been doing really is what I've always done. I'm coming in here, I'm doing the Bible study. I'm coming in and I'm preaching like I always have. I haven't I don't think I have any less energy in preaching because nobody's in the pews, because that is my calling. And I want to be faithful in this season in my calling to preach. I may not see the people, but they see me. So none of that has really changed for me.
What are some of the things you're doing to stay in touch with, especially your vulnerable population, things like that during this time?
Say it again, Joe.
How are you
Can you
staying in
say it
tune with your
again?
vulnerable population and then your membership in general during this time?
Okay, yeah. Good question. I put together as early as last week a team of about 50 people, and I asked them if they would. I had my office manager to break our membership roll up into segments. I think they went alphabetically, and each person had an opportunity to call at least 50 people. And that was their assignment. And the report back was that all went well in that area. Several people on my staff still come in and answer the phone, and so we are pretty connected in that vein. So I'm going to send a shout out to all the ministries when I get through talking to you. So
Yeah.
we're pretty good in that vein. In fact, this hadn't just started for me. I have always tried to be pastoral in that vein.
Yeah, you have.
So you know, when you lack so much like I do, you got to use everything you have.
What have you been hearing from the membership as far as their needs, or in the community as far as the needs and how the church can step in? Because I know you do a lot of things from the health fair and so on. You're already connected to the community. Like you said, you're already being a pastor, being a shepherd to your people. So how is that heightened, and what are you hearing around in the community as it relates to that?
Yeah. So what we're doing as a church, I've asked our membership to whatever they were doing in terms of giving to our food pantry, that if they could double up during this season to meet the needs of those who are in the Berkeley community where our other campus is. So that's ongoing. Also, what's big, I don't want to say too much about this now, but we get on the other side of this. Since we have had our health fair for almost 20 years now, what I hope to do is a countywide, citywide, with the help of all of our churches, health fair weekend.
Oh, wow.
And what I'll be asking all of the pastors at the same time on that weekend to be a part of this, because what we have noticed, or what I've noticed, is that covert is not just taking our people, it is a part of the structure that our people live in. And so not only are we underserved, but the structure that we have been called to live in is just as diseased. And what we can do is to move in a direction to address some of these things ourselves. But it's going to have to take every pastor laying aside whatever has stood in their way in the past, and let's get in line to help the people.
Tell us a little bit about the health fair and what you in the past have focused on and what you see needs to be focused on as we get through the pandemic. As you stated, one of the reasons why we're being hit the hardest, and I'm thinking of the African-American community, is because of structural, from a healthcare standpoint, issues. It just shows again on this topic, your progressiveness of having such a health fair and emphasizing that in the community. So just tell us a little bit about what you've done in the past and where you see that evolving after this.
Yeah, every year, our health fair is open to the public. It has been one of the driving forces of our ministry here at Shalom, and everything that you're hearing about now, the asthma, sugar, all of those things are addressed at the health fair. And here of late, I have to be honest with you, everybody just about comes but our people.
Mm.
And I've noticed that maybe the last 3 or 4 years that there's a number of people that are cross cultures that find it necessary to come and take advantage of the things that we have. And it's our people that you almost have to beg to do it, and we need it the most. Don't ask me why that is, because I don't know. But that kind of thinking, hopefully in this season, will change. I'm hoping that it will change. Yeah.
How long you've been doing it, and what made you start doing it?
Okay, I think we've done it now for about 20 years. I've been blessed to give leadership to a host of people who are healthcare professionals, and so it is that lane. And so I'm glad that I'm secure enough to move out the way and then let them help me do ministry to our people who desperately need it. Yeah.
Mm. What have you been preaching that you felt that was necessary for the people to hear during this time, and how do you see your preaching shaping in the future? Even you just finished your Bible study now. Thank you again for taking time to do so after doing a hard day of labor with that. What have you been preaching? What do you see yourself preaching? Especially as you said, and I would wholeheartedly agree with you that we'll be here for a while. Any thoughts of May or even June or July at this point, I think is God is able, of course, and we know that He is. We'll gladly be wrong, but it's probably wishful thinking at best.
Yeah. Well, up until we came to covert and had to move totally to live stream, I was on course with the lectionary, even through Lent. And after that, then I think we started out talking about what was I preaching. And so I revisited some stuff that I had already preached before. Mm-hmm. And that I thought that the people that I was preaching to could identify with during this season, and that it would serve as a source to encourage them to be hopeful for where they were. For instance, I did a couple of weeks ago the neighbor story, the Good Samaritan, mm-hmm. and how the priest and Levite practiced social spacing, or not coming near the guy. And the surprise in the text, as the surprise is with what's going on now, was the Samaritan who provided health care. and certain heroes emerge in a crisis such as this. And who would have ever thought that people who worked in grocery stores
Right.
and nursing homes and and who had hospital duties would emerge as our first responders, as heroes, such as the Samaritan did. So that's the turn that my preaching has taken. Just those stories that people are familiar with, where they can journey with you through it, and it can be a wonderful engagement after proclamation is over. Where I go in the next several weeks, I'm going to be asking God. I'm going to be asking God there. I'm going to be asking God, and then listening to what the needs are in and with the people I serve, and that'll give me direction. But I have to be honest. I really think that I'm doing much better as a preacher. Black preaching has this element of entertainment.
Yeah, there's no way around it.
Yeah, but if there's nobody that's really encouraging you to do that, you kind of stay the course and make sure that you are saying everything that you have intended to say while in preparation. So it's from that angle that I'm enjoying this growth aspect of mine, that it's sharpening me, that I can keep my focus through the duration of the message.
What about staff? How you been dealing with as relationship to your staff and trying to maintain them and keeping a sense of morale? Is there anything unique you've been doing in that way?
Not at all. None of that's changed. I don't have a lot of turnover. In fact, I have hardly any turnover. So this is not the first crisis that this staff experienced, and I think that I have lived in such a way before them until trust has been established, and so it's from that angle that I think we're all on board through the duration of this, and if need be, that wonderful story in Acts where everything was laid at the apostles' feet and he had to distribute as need. If we have to go back to that New Testament model, then so be it. But it's all good in the vein.
Yeah, that's a great passage to reference on and think about during this season. Thanks for bringing that up. Tell us a little bit about your formal training and the pros and cons of formal training in light of what we're facing right now. How has that benefited you, you believe, when looking back, and what are some of the things that you talked about some of it already with being around progressive-minded people in ministry that sort of led you to do some things that you may not normally have done. What is it for those that are listening that they will tap into as it relates to formal training? And then what is it that those that have not been able to go to formal training but can lean on during this time?
Yeah, well, my journey is not unlike most of my colleagues. In fact, one of the best things that ever happened to me is to had the privilege of going to Bishop College. And being at Bishop, not only were the classes instrumental, but the people that I've had a chance to meet and fellowship with, those relationships have been lasting and impactful in ministry. I just cannot say enough about it. In fact, you've had some of the brothers on before me.
Yes, sir.
The brilliance of a Freddie Haynes, and how focused and grounded Dr. Ralph Douglas West is. I mean, you don't hang around that kind of intellect and it not wear off on you. And so, in terms of my ministry, I've been so blessed by just being in the presence of those fellas until, you know, you can misreading the book, just read them and model some stuff that they've done, and that in itself will be a blessing. I've had the awesome tutelage of my pastor, Dr. Moses Javis, and of course, foundationally speaking, Dr. L.K. Curry. And so, you know, I've been molded by all of that, and did my seminary training at Eden Theological Seminary. Got my master's and my D.Mins there. And all of that has helped to allow me to think at another level. I don't think that you can go to school and then not have your thinking transformed. That education ought to invite us to think at another level. You ought not think that you're better than anybody, but it at least gives you an opportunity to think at another level. So when you come to a place like this, because of the people and the experiences that you've had going through the process of academia, it grounds you to the point where you just know that you're going to be all right through this, and you model you model a servant that is grounded and prepared and prayed up until people feel confident that you're the one to watch get them through this. And so what I would say to younger brothers and sisters, you know, I'm so impressed by so many younger brothers and sisters, their tools, the gifts, the handle that they have on ministry. But this is new territory, and if they get stuck somewhere, I only invite them to reach out and get some help. Don't be like the people you think in deep water and you talk about, man, so-and-so sure can swim. and then you discover they ain't swimming, they drowning. And so I would try to encourage younger brothers and sisters, you don't have to do this alone. If there is somebody who has navigated crisis before, don't put on a mask and pretend as if you got it all together. Reach out and get yourself some help.
Tell me more about your bishop days and how that developed you, and some of the sermons you heard on campus that stood out to you, some of your classmates that are historical even now, even more of those stories. We can't tell all our bishop stories here, but if we ever...
I can't tell you about class. I didn't hardly know. Go that Ralph West and Freddie Haynes and others, A.B. Sutton and those guys, they went to class. I just took their notes and went from there. But those were some of the best days of my life. That was this ritual on the campus where, in order to be considered one of the fellas, you had to be baptized. And so I went through that process, and it was I hated it when we were doing it. Back in those days, I had some words that I can't mention now, and every now and then I still reach back and get one of them, but but Ralph and I got baptized together. He thought it was fun and funny, but that was my posture. But it was only after that activity that there was a bond that was created that had not been broken to this day. And so, although the school itself does not exist, the brothers that went there, the school lives in us. And there are a whole lot of other things that happen that it just ain't, I can't talk about it. I got to take it with me too. Yeah.
Some of the memorable sermons that you heard there.
By name, I probably couldn't tell you the title, but all of the preachers during that time that were considered great preachers passed through. The Caesar Clarks, the Manuel Scotts, the Frederick Sampsons, the A. Lewis Patterson. A. Lewis Patterson was one of my favorites. I mean, he had substance and style, and A. Lewis would just kill. S.M. Wright was somebody to behold. Harry Wright, one of our professors, and Dr. John Mangrum was a heavy hitter in my opinion. Yeah, he didn't like none of them. He didn't like none of them. He made it known, and I love that about him. The doc, what you think of us? Oh, he is horrible. I don't understand why anybody would ever listen to him. And so we had a lot of fun with that. But my love for preaching and preachers came as a result of my being at Bishop College. And one of the many regrets that I have about the school closing is that my sons and daughters at ministry didn't have a chance to experience Bishop College firsthand. And I think we suffer as a result of the school being closed. That the model, the imaging of preaching has been taken from others that leave much to be desired.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think my generation would benefit greatly, even if you didn't attend the school or have a base to go to, as a fellowship of the conferences. I think it's the L.K. Curry conference or things of that nature that you all had.
LK.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that was great. What about your journey into pastoring? What eventually, what were you before, and what eventually led you to starting Shalom Church?
Shalom is my third pastorate. I pastored two other places. My first pastorate was the Tabernacle Church in Alton, Illinois. From there to Morning Star Church here in the city of St. Louis. We had a differencing in vision and understanding vision, that kind of thing. And so we went our separate ways. I used to boldly talk about they put me out and all that. But as I've grown to understand some things better, I kind of eased up on that. Because back in those days, I was rather forceful. In fact, I was the one who had gone to school. I prepared myself for the journey that I was called to. I had done that work and they hadn't. And so I thought that really put me in a position to better lead a people who hadn't had the experience that I had. I'm grateful today that I've lived long enough to understand that all of that just was not so. That here was a group of people who called me into their space, and and it took me a while to understand that that was not my space that I was called into. It would become my space if I had the patience to allow that to happen. But like most young preachers, I lacked that maturity. And so I tried to change them into what they were not ready to become. And so as a result, there was a parting of the way, which led to Shalom. And as many regrets as I have had about what has happened at Morning Star, I am grateful for Shalom because it gave me an opportunity to take those experiences and to learn from it. You're kind of sad if you don't learn from everything that you experience, and so it taught me to always honor the story or the journey of the other. And in doing that, I'm telling you, it has made me a better pastor. I do believe it is not my way or the highway, but it's how we go get here together. And I think, George, that's a word for even now. It's not how I'm gonna take us somewhere, but it's how we gonna get here together. Because even right now, there are so many people that's not on the same page because they're not getting the same information. And as the pastor, servant, leader of this church, as I engage in conversation with persons who are members of this church, then I've got to see how I can hear them and then move to a direction that is profitable for both of us. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What were some of the early highlights of Star to Shalom on how the church taken off, and how did you navigate through all that?
Well, initially the church didn't take off. It took forever for that to happen. Everything was touch and go. I thought that maybe the Lord was so mad at me until he put me on this journey and had me, as what they would say, trying to fake it until you made it. Maybe about year 6 or so. I can't tell you what happened. Don't know. I'm doing the same thing now that I was doing then. And so if somebody was asking me, that going to this conference do it, reading this certain thing do it, no, none of that. It was the Lord, and that's just the bottom line. But in this season, anybody that's been bragging about numbers and all that, they can forget that, because a change coming, a change. So if that's been if that's been having numbers, if that's been your call to fame, I don't know how you're gonna make it on the other side of this, because whatever the new is gonna look like, I do not know, but I do know it's gonna be new.
Yeah, the Lord's made fun of that. Everybody had to say on Easter, how many did you see, Doc? 10. Hey, Rev, how many you have, man? On Easter? Well, 10, Doc. Man, we slid one extra in there, man. I hope the city don't come get us. we had 11 choir members hiding in the 6th row. No matter how big the building is, how small. 10. That's across the board. The numbers. So we've advanced. We've advanced. So now we skewing our streaming numbers now. I had 10,000 tune in, and I said, well, pull up the analytics and see how long they look when they tune in. So we'll still find a way to be competitive and compare and compete, which has something about yourself that of many things that I've always appreciated is the consistency. And you went back to saying, "Hey, it's 6 years, don't know no magic marker." But I think there is hearing that. I hear consistency was one of the things that brought that along. And I think maybe someone out there or some pastor, church leader out there that's been doing the same thing and been faithful. They may be discouraged during this time. I think all of us are dealing with, on some level, anxiety and fear of the unknown. In light of what we're facing, we've never been here before. This is new. We faced 9/11. We faced Trayvon. You were intimately a part of the Mike Brown and Ferguson situation, but this is totally new. It's a global thing. Um, what would you say to someone that needs to encourage them to keep on being consistent? And what do you think this pandemic is teaching the church?
Yeah, really, really, George, to that pastor that that because I'm sure that there are some whose situation may have just started to look like it was turning in their favor, and
Right.
and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden this happened. Now just keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you've been doing. Just be as faithful as you know how, and then just leave the results to God. I wish I had a rhema word for where we all gonna land. I don't have none of those tricks. I
Yeah.
just absolutely don't know. But whatever it is, it's gonna be all right. And it's
Yes.
from that place where I will do what I've been doing. That's all I know. I don't have no name it, claim it. I don't have no cloth to sell. I don't have no super prayer team. I don't have none of that.
Right.
But I've got his word, and
Right.
he's given us that he won't leave us nor forsake us. And so that's the best I can pass on to anybody that's listening. And it has worked for me. It has worked for me that whatever any measurements others have had for me, then if it ain't what God has, then yeah, that it won't work.
Yeah. Absolutely. What are you reading during this time? Anything you're reading in particular during this time?
Uh, I just finished. Well, I'm not finished. I scanned through it. Honest Worship um,
Mm,
by Manuel Lou. I think that's his name.
mhm,
Uh, uh, in fact, some of the things that we've been talking about, unmasking,
mhm,
is part of that presentation. That there's another piece, the next evangelicalism.
mhm,
Uh, the author name doesn't come to me, but it is a critique of white evangelism, white
mhm,
evangelicalism. Uh,
mhm.
uh, an interesting book. Interesting, yes. So, and then I constantly read commentaries. That's for my theological development. So,
Absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
What has been your experience in that circle, white evangelical, and even how you compare that with National Baptist Convention parent bodies? What's been your experience? What's your critique of it?
You don't want me to go there. Don't mess with me, man. You don't want me.
Yeah.
That white evangelicals, most of the pastors are just interested in a photo op with you to
Mhm,
post that to people who look like me, to then give
mhm,
them free pass to continue to proselyte.
Mm,
So,
okay.
and then about the convention, what convention?
Right.
You know, it would be nice. It would be nice if, and they perhaps have. I just hadn't heard, nor have I heard anybody talk about it. But in this space right now, it would be nice for the National Baptist Convention to just reach out to its people and give some assurance about some of this, or maybe not even some assurances, but just to let you know I'm thinking about you. I would.
Mm.
But have you heard that? Has anybody done anything like that? Have you heard?
I have not. If it happened, it's missed me. And I don't want to say have not happened. I just say it. If it has, it's missed me and missed me. Those in my circle of influence that I talk to.
Yeah, yeah,
You're right.
yes. I mean, so I just absolutely have nothing to say. Grandma said, in fact, that's where we need to get back to. Some of us need to get back to Grandma and Papa. Yeah. But Grandma said, if you can't say nothing good, don't say nothing at all. So
Well, then my next question might get the same response. Then, uh, your critique of our federal leadership in general, and just as you look and listen to the news, both me and you are news buffs, and yeah. uh,
yeah.
45.
So listen,
Yeah.
in your hometown today,
Yes.
there is a
Detroit. Yeah.
protest. There is a protest because the governor is concerned about well-being, but there's another message that another cross section of people are getting who perhaps don't feel the effects of COVID-19. And so they protest and they in the streets carrying the American flag, et cetera, et cetera. And so, you know, everything boils down to your leadership. And right now there is an absence of leadership uh, in our federal government, and that's the best I can do. That's the best I can do with that. See, the longer we go, the more you're gonna keep asking me stuff, and I'm gonna be dusty in a minute. And Lord knows I don't wanna do that. Because you're getting terribly close to asking stuff where this ain't fair, John.
Listen, I'm gonna let you go with this one, and some casual stuff, because you've been gracious with your time and you taught your Bible study today, and I know you're checking in with your members, and it's a busier time for us as pastors now, and it's been refreshing to be at home and to be able to. One of the things that God, I think, allowed us to do is to be more in tune and connected with membership and leadership of our churches. But the meltdown the other day of our president. have you have you seen anything in presidential history? I call myself a pseudo history buff. I've I've never heard of.
Listen, I think I put a call into my brother because I wanted him. He missed it. That everybody needed to see what being unprepared looks like when
Mm,
when you're in a crisis such as this.
wow.
And you can't get what you needed in that moment. Since you've been in that office, you should have been having people to prep you every day for that. In fact, I had never seen anything like what I witnessed the other day. It was George, it was a total meltdown. The man had, and then he turned around and said that he was king. I'm king. Ooh. And America does not have kings.
No, no.
We
He
have
said he had total authority. That was his word. Yeah, total authority. And listen, he wasn't trying to be funny. He wasn't trying to, he was irritated, but he genuinely meant that. And it just
he told the lady that's enough. That's enough. Now, sometimes when we are not quite ourselves in ministry, and our people come at us forcefully like that because they need an answer. So it ain't like we don't understand what he feeling.
No, we understand.
But you gotta find a way to channel that so that it doesn't come out and you really look to be the size of an ant.
Yeah. It's a lesson on leadership. George Washington said you can learn from everything, well, either what to do or what not to do. One point, the lady asked him, "What have you done since?" He's bragging about the China ban. He says, "What have you done?" He says, "A lot." That was it. He said a lot. He didn't explain what a lot was. He didn't elaborate on what this a lot consists of. He just said a lot. I was like, oh wow, this is the
yeah, and that was that was way out there. That was way out there. And
I knew you would appreciate that. Maybe we can get the our conventions and even some of our conferences together and get them all on a big Zoom, and we could figure out, your progressive thinking of already about how to do a nationwide healthcare. Once you told me about health fair, once you told me about that, it was something that we've always tried to talked about. I should say we didn't even try. We talked about something doing that in our community, but that the birthing in that get in my mind and get some local pastors in LA together, because that's the level of it. The mental health aspect of it is something else that needs to be addressed. How have you been in the past addressing mental health? How do you see yourself addressing that in the future?
Well, there are other churches in this area that have health fair initiatives, which is good. But I think while we're in this space and we've been shown again the severity of the conditions that our people live in and with, that it is just a great time that if pastors can gather all over the nation and in cities. I'd like to see every city. Well, that would be amazing if we could, at the same time everywhere, just having a healthcare explosion from urban communities or for urban communities, and Black pastors leading the way in that. George, that would just be, it would make a step. I would almost guarantee this, that every hospital would get on board with it to try to help underwrite it, because it's been so exposed now.
Yeah, I think we could pull something out, identify 20 or 25 cities and have a central person get on a call and get hospital connections. I know I have a healthcare administration background and have friends in different places around the world and universities, their public health schools. I've done that's something I think we could pull off.
We need to do that. We need to do that. I think if there's a number of things that's going to emerge from where we are, that being one of them. And if that is at the top of the list, where the need is so prevalent, then we need to move in that direction. And if you want to continue this conversation later and get some others on, man, I would just be I'd just be delighted. It's just the thing to do right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. From physical to mental health. And like we said, some of the environmental issues that's coming up now, that's been talked about in our community that makes us prone to asthma. And now you see with a respiratory virus like this is why we're being affected more with the disparities as we are everything.
Yeah,
Um, but this is being highlighted even more. So it's gone from us being immune to the virus, whoever started that silliness, to us now being the ones
yeah,
that's affected most.
yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
We could do this on and on and on and on, but I know again how busy you are. But one last request is for you to pray for us,
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm going to reach out to try to at least identify what those 20 to 25 urban cities could be and see who would be the connection and try to get the
Count
conversation going.
me in. Count me in, please. Count
Yeah,
me in. Yeah, dear
yeah.
gracious our Father, how we love you and thank you so much for this privilege that you've given us to share. Thank you for George and the work that he's doing. I pray your blessings upon him and his church. For pastors everywhere during this season, give us what we need. I pray, oh God, that in spite of the situations that are a part of our federal government, God, please hold us all together. I thank you for what you're doing in St. Louis. I'm grateful for Shalom. And God, I lift before you people who are sick everywhere. Touch as you can do. Those that are the most vulnerable amongst us, since we are underserved and there are structural problems in our communities. Lord, only you can provide the kind of health care that's needed right now. And so bless us as we move forward. Yet there's so many other things that I would say, but you know what I say even before I speak. So I end my prayer knowing that you've heard me in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen.
Amen. Thanks again.
Yes,
Love you
sir,
much.
Doc. We love you here. Thanks, George.